So I finally got around to watching Flashback, aka The Education of Frederick Fitzel. So I'm gonna preface this right off the bat. I'm gonna go into spoilers for this film because this film's been out for over a week now, and honestly, just like The Army of the Dead, I watched this late. So I'm gonna go into spoilers here because honestly, to talk about this film, I kind of have to, because there is no way I can give this film a full review without going into some spoilers. So, if you haven't seen it, you want to pause the video, watch the movie, and then come back. The weird thing about this film is that I had no idea it was coming out until literally a few days before it did. I'm serious, I didn't know about this film until I heard... This film came out on June 4th, and I heard about it June 1st, probably. And then I kept putting it off, because, honestly, from the trailers, I knew this was gonna be bad, and it is. It is really bad. It's honestly even worse than I thought. So, the main plot of this film is this man named Frederick Fitzel, played by Dylan O'Brien, is starting to see visions of one of his old high school friends named Cindy. And he goes off with a few of his other friends to try to figure out what happened to her during their final year of high school. Because after one night, she just kind of disappeared, after a night when they all took this mysterious drug that was going around the school called Mercury, which I'll get into later, but that's the main plot of this film. And I thought this was just going to be your average searching for somebody who disappeared story. I've seen a ton of these, so I had a feeling this was just going to follow suit and just be another one of those bland films. But there's no way I could have predicted the twist for this film. I don't think anybody could. Now, for the first 45 minutes, it seems to be par for the course. And honestly, when the 45-minute mark hit and they go back to the place... By that time, they go back to the place where they last saw her, because that's really one of the only clues they have. They go back there. I thought the movie was starting to wrap up. But then I was... Not only was I disappointed, but I was surprised to find it was only halfway through. So, I'm wondering, what the hell are we supposed to do for the next hour and change? Oh boy, the last hour, what they do for the last hour and change is all kinds of weird and not in a good way. It is ridiculous. The twist in this is preposterous, but I'll get into that in a little bit. So, the acting is probably one of the only things that's good in this film. The actors try their hardest, and Dylan O'Brien, I'm a really big fan of Dylan O'Brien. He's one of the best younger actors in Hollywood out there, and he's done some great films like The Maze Runner, and I actually liked American Assassin for the most part. I thought it was alright, but he's not above starring in schlock. He's really not. I've seen some films that he's in, like one of his older films was called The First Time, and that was awful. So he's not above starring in shit. But I don't know what he was thinking when he took this job. I really don't get it. So the rest of the cast isn't really noteworthy. It's nothing really to write home about, but they did their jobs fine. And O'Brien's the only actor I recognized anyway, so there's really not much of a point in going into anybody else. So I'm going to get into the twist here that it's utterly ridiculous, and if I get some facts wrong about this twist, because if people went further into this film, watched all those videos, ending explained, all these videos you see on the internet, this movie's ending explained. I think Looper puts out a video on that for every movie that has ever come out. So, I'm going to get into the twist here. If you don't want to know what it is, go watch the movie and then come back. So, and like I said, if I don't understand the concept, if you think I don't understand the concept of what's going on, tell me what I'm missing, because I'm pretty sure I got this down, but it's still ridiculous. So, Frederick goes into the building where they last saw her, and he goes into this room. And he starts to see these people that were also at the, I guess it was some kind of club, I guess. I don't know what it was. But they were also there when he took the mercury. And what this mercury does... what this mercury does, it allows you to essentially move around in time and live/see a bunch of possible outcomes of your future. If you think I'm pulling this stuff out of my ass right now, I wouldn't blame you, but that's actually what it does. I still don't understand who thought this was a good idea. This was a stupid twist. Not only that, but it's not explained well. It's explained in like 2 sentences, and we see it done for like 5 minutes. We see Frederick and like Cindy have a life. They have like a bunch of different lives they could have had together in the future. Like one where they're at like some kind of beach house, I guess he's living, and he's like an artist, I guess. And then there's one where they're like exploring through like a desert or something. And then it's just a lot of weird shit. And then something else that kept happening was it would constantly jump around in time. And I don't mean like... And if you've seen Quentin Tarantino's films, you know he likes to jump around in the timeline a lot. That happens here too, for one, in the most obnoxious way possible. Like, there are multiple scenes where it's constantly flashing back and forth, like, this quick. That is literally, like, this is the present, this is the past. It's constantly flipping like this in the editing, and it's annoying. And it started to give me a headache, because I watched this in the dark. It gave me a headache. So... not only that, but the timeline jumps around so much. Like, it'll jump from the present day back to his high school, then back. But it does this, like, every 10 minutes. Like, I understand jumping around in the timeline a bit. And you want to do it every once in a while, that's fine. But it does it, like, every 10 minutes, maybe less. It does it a ton, and it gets on my nerves. And the constant... later on in the film, it'll constantly jump back just a few minutes. And he'll be, like, reliving events that that had just transpired. But it's kind of like Groundhog Day, but obnoxious. Because it only jumped back a few minutes, and it seems to just do it randomly. For example, there's a part where he has to, like, give some kind of presentation to, I guess, like, the big shots at the company he works at. And eventually by this point, he's figured out that in every, like, possible outcome, he's not even really there. And there's even a shot in the trailer that shows this. He's constantly yelling, "I'm not even really here." And that's what happens in the film. What is outside my door? Fuck it. So, but then it jumped back a few minutes. Like, just before he got in the elevator, which was about 3 minutes beforehand. And then he goes through that again, and then he jumps back another 5 minutes to when he was in the car going there. And it's just stupid. There's also this weird thing with some guy who was like, some kid who was like on so much mercury that he's like completely out of it, and he's just talking nonsense, and then Frederick keeps seeing these like visions of the kid as an adult. And this guy is creepy, I might add, especially with, like, the scar that goes up his face like this, which I guess Frederick caused when he was, like, trying to get away and he hit the kid with something and caused, like, a big scar to go, like, from his, like, forehead and down, like, it looks like a lightning bolt all the way down to his jawline, I guess. So yeah, the older version of him is creepy, and he kept showing up. And every once in a while, he would, like, see visions of him. Even in, like, past events, he was seeing visions of him speaking nonsense, and then the timeline does this shit again, and it keeps jumping back and forth to where what he's saying is supposed to be connected and make sense. A, none of this makes sense. And B, it's jumping around so much, I can't even I can't even understand what he's supposed to be saying, because it's constantly jumping back and forth and starting over, like, every 5 seconds. Like, it'll keep jumping around to what he's saying constantly, and then start over with the words rearranged, and it got to a point where I started to feel like I was dyslexic, and I was hearing stuff, not looking at it. I was hearing dyslexic. That's not a thing, but I couldn't understand what was supposed to be happening. This movie makes absolutely no sense. There have been many films that I've said, like the last year and this year, I've had all my reviews. I've seen a lot of movies that say the plot makes no sense, certain actions make no sense, certain scenes make no sense, there's constant errors that are never explained. This is the worst offender I've seen in a good long while. I have no idea what the fuck I watched. This was horrendous. And the more I talk about it, it's like the worse it gets. It's like I tried to give this a little leeway, but God, this was awful. Now, it's not the worst film I've seen this year. Films like Justice League, Tom and Jerry, and Army of the Dead, and I think Outside the Wire was probably less bad, but this was a horrendous film. Do not waste your time with this whatsoever. I've seen positive reviews of this, and I have to wonder if the people who watched that film fell asleep halfway through and only saw anything that was remotely passable. And most of the negative reviews just say the film is boring. It's definitely boring, but holy shit, this was insanity to the max. And I like insanity in films if it makes sense, or if it is explained to some extent. But it's not. Not very well, at least. Maybe this is like Tenet, and maybe I just don't get it. I mean, a lot of people don't get Tenet. The movie makes no... But Tenet made more sense than this. I kind of understood what was going on in Tenet. It was the idea about reversing time. Okay, that's a simple concept. This is not. I don't know what the writers were smoking. Apparently they were high on mercury, I guess, when they wrote this shit. Wow, this was... Yeah, the only positive thing I can say is that the acting was okay. Again, nothing to write home about. Outside of O'Brien, nothing to write home about, but... Jesus Christ. Don't waste your time with this. Please don't. You will be confused. I'm still kind of horrified by some of the imagery. Some of the imagery is, like, staying with me. I'm gonna have nightmares now. And I'm an adult, and I wasn't scared. I haven't been scared by movies in a long time. Like, movies don't scare me anymore. This film did it unintentionally. This was a fucking horror film disguised as some kind of psychological thriller. Oh, man, I'm gonna like, Army of the Dead, zombies don't give me nightmares. So fucking ridiculous. This is gonna give me nightmares. I'm not gonna sleep tonight. I guarantee it. Flashback gets a 1 out of 5. This was terrible. Thank you all so much for watching. Be sure to subscribe for more reviews just like this one. Hit that like button down below. Comment, tell me what you thought of this film. Have you even heard of this film? I would not be shocked if you haven't. In fact, it would actually make more sense. Like, I would probably be more surprised if you had heard of this, let alone seen it. And if you have seen it, may God have mercy on your soul and your brain cells. So, then I'll see you all next time. Bye.